Here is Samson's take. Not a legacy of bad discretion, Mr. President. Deep-thinking country lovers like Professors H. Kwesi Prempeh and Raymond Atuguba have the best description for our executive president, the all-powerful executive president. They call the president an imperial president. Literally nothing happens within the realm without the president. The president, they wield wide discretion and are said to appoint about or in excess of 6,000 of those at the helm. Is the president. The Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams prayed when you met him yesterday that you be your own man and not allow anybody to purport to exercise the awesome powers of state invested in you. None ought to be permitted to supplant you, however minimal. It is you we voted for and will hold accountable for all you preside over. This rather should be the guide. Article 296 of our Constitution. And this is what it tells you. It says, where in this Constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. Fairness, candidness, being truthful. The exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike. It should not be affected by bias, prejudice, or personal dislike. And it shall be in accordance with due process of law. Let me tell you what I'm talking about this morning, Mr. President. The gentleman who has been removed from the NPRA, because very clearly he had a hand, sort of, in the Jachikwesing circumstances. He's being hounded out. That's resentment. That's not the power you have been given. Your power should not be affected by resentment, not by bias, and not by prejudice. Yes, some of us know you. I remember when you made a certain comment and many Ghanaians came at you and said, that is not the John Mahama we know. I sat on this show and we discussed that matter and I made a comment. In your usual polite way, you picked the phone and called me. And we discovered at the time that things were being done that required you to put up a certain posture. Otherwise, your own political party will not be excited with you. That was the time we were hearing issues about all die be die and all the vitriol. And you needed to show that you will not take things for granted. That you also had the capacity to reply in equal measure. Mr. President, the dismissals, mass dismissals that have happened, you need to overturn them by your own act again, guided by this principle of the Constitution. Yes, some of them may have been done wrongfully and not in accord with due process. Please allow the individual institutions where those people have been appointed to take due process to sieve the process. We have seen letters that show clearly that some of these dismissals, by the date you give, 7th of December, are not affected, but the people have been affected. Some of these appointments or recruitments were made in all good conscience and good faith. Reputable institutions led the recruitment processes. Yes, I know how the politics can destroy our institutions. I've been lawyer for people who have been affected before, who have been punished in similar way by the NPP, people who have been punished in similar way by the NDC. But is joining a political party a crime? Is it a crime that people join political parties and find themselves in those employments? There are places at the Pharmacy Council, for example, people who have served in excess of 2 decades. They have been in line to do a particular job. They got the job rightly over a year ago. They have become casualties. That's unfair. That's not in accordance with the Constitution, Mr. President. You have what it takes to overturn this situation so that the ritual retaliatory conduct by the political class will stop. There are people begging for the blood of Akufo-Dampare. What is his crime? What has he done wrong? If there's something you think he's not doing well, can't you instruct him to ensure that they are done well? Must he be removed? That's not the way to build this country. And that will be my take. H. Kwesi Prempeh and other democracy lovers have been saying that don't appoint MPs to public boards. You have just started. Can you stop here? It's bad exercise of discretion. Isaac Adongo is gone to Bank of Ghana board. Parliament is supposed to oversight that institution. So when they do wrong and these people are supposed to exercise oversight, how are they going to do it? Because they are part of these boards. Mr. President, stop that here. This was preached over and again. Akufo-Addo just spanned it. He told civil society in their face, in a meeting with them, that he has people who know better than them. You must not do the same. And that will be my take. We'll be right back.
Mr. Speaker, it's not my style to lament and shift blame when confronted with challenges. My approach is to accept challenges and work hard to resolve them. I have therefore not come here to lament on the state of our country, though there's much to lament about. I understand why I was elected with such high voter confidence, and that is to solve Ghana's problems. Yesterday, February 26, 2025, marks exactly 10 years since I stood in this chamber, at this very spot, to declare my determination to fix Dumso, a legacy problem of power shortages. And Mr. Speaker, I fixed it. Today, inspired by the Almighty God and propelled by the massive mandate given to me by the good people of Ghana, I am moved to make a similar purposeful and bold declaration that I, John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. We have inherited a country that is broken on many fronts. The profundities of the challenges confronting us are staggering. We are saddled with staggering debts and glaring signs of almost deliberate and, in some cases, reckless mismanagement of our resources. In addition to the public debt, which amounts to a staggering 721 billion cedis, several state-owned enterprises are also in debt, including the ECG, which owes 68 billion Ghana cedis. There have been claims that buffers were left for debt repayment, oncoming debt repayment this year. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me give you the statement of account for the Debt Service Reserve account, which is also popularly referred to as the sinking fund. This fund shows a balance of only $64,000 in the dollar account, $64,000 in the dollar account, and 143 million Ghana cedis in the CD account. Mr. Speaker, since we took office on January 7, 2025, we have upheld our commitment to a fiscal consolidation agenda with a streamlined government. We have eliminated unnecessary expenditures and reduced our reliance on borrowing. Our prudent debt management practices have led to a substantial reduction in interest rates.
The president says the economy is in intensive care. My guest this morning, Felix Kwakye Ofosu, is Minister of State, Government Communications. Dr. Stephen Amoah is right here in the studio, former Deputy Minister for Finance and MP. Asokwa? MP in Shaiso. So, yes, Stephen knows I can't get that wrong. But that's what I have
anyway,
that's what I have on the list here, and I just knew it was wrong. Bobby Banson is lawyer. He teaches the law at the Ghana School of Law. In the second segment, we'll be joined by Dr. Angela Dwamna-Boaji, Executive Director, the AG Foundation, Ghana. Dr. Kwame Sapong-Asiedu, CDD Fellow, Public Health. We will deal with the matters concerning the opioids. And if you have seen the BBC documentary, I don't know what goes through your mind as you watch that documentary. It's not the first, and this will not be the first we'll be discussing this issue here, but it does look like some critical attention has to be paid to that sector, those issues, else we are just doomed. And already we've started hearing from the public entities doing the normal face-saving talking. They wait until, the exposés are made about how they are sleeping on their jobs. And then they begin to tell us that, oh, we are doing this, we don't do that. We are tired of the talking, right? When you are appointed to do work, just do the work, okay? So, welcome to the studio, gentlemen. Felix Kwakye Ofosu will join us shortly. Now, Stephen, is it really the case that what I'm seeing is correct, that the NPP will be holding the true state of the nation? Is it tomorrow or Monday?
Possibly, yes.
There's a statement.
Yeah, possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
True state of the nation.
But as you say,
those who are managing the affairs now are the ones who are telling us what the true state of the nation is. How do you tell us the true state of the nation from where you sit from outside?
Okay, thank you very much. My regards to our viewers this very morning, and I think your question is extremely legitimate. I mean, as a result of asymmetric information, one would have expected that those in the helm of affairs, whose hands are in the soup, will be able to tell us the exact state of the nation's economy. So I agree with you. But then one thing about talking about a country's economy, something, it's not just like having the discretion to talk about yourself or something else. There are figures. So sometimes you can do all the propaganda in the world, but the figures truly will expose you. So you can
that's our public debt is 721 billion cedis. Is that fact or not fact?
Samson, Let me tell you.
Is that fact?
No, I'm coming. Let me explain to you. Anybody that talks about just debt and does not talk about debt to GDP, in my opinion, respectfully, not to the president, but generally, is on the path of deceiving people.
Is it a fact or it's not a fact?
No, debt, as I'm sitting here,
yes,
debt, it has this sort of incremental propensity or whatever. So that could have been yes or no, depending on the time we're talking about.
Yes, you can do whatever you want to do with the fact. But I want, first of all,
can you please
first principles, faithful to the facts.
But what I'm saying,
721 billion is our public debt stock.
That is
correct or false?
I'm saying, that is what he's saying. I don't know which date he's quoting. But what I'm trying to say is that the best way to tell Ghanaians the truth is our debt to our GDP all over the world. Because you can have an institution whose debt is 1 billion. Okay? And you can have an institution whose debt is 4 billion. But in terms of the one that is doing well, it can only be determined by expressing that as a percentage of your GDP, the assets you have. So you cannot just quote in, unless you want to be mischievous, I mean respectfully. Now you talk precisely about our debt to GDP. Let me tell you, our debt to GDP, as of the time we're handing over, was about 74.6. In fact, it had been reduced within that shortest possible time from almost 78, 79, thereabout. So this is what we have to talk about. And in any case, there are so many, even in my opinion, more important or comparably the same importance when it comes to primary and micro indicators. Samson, our GDP that we handed over, that is, I mean, in the simplest form I want Ghanaians to understand gross domestic product. I mean, in summary, how our economy is growing. We're growing 6.3% as of November. Of course, it remains provisional, but within 1 month, it couldn't have changed remarkably to any other figure. As against 2016, that they handed over to us 3.4. In spite of all these global issues that we went through, Samson, debt to GDP post-COVID of the world was about 238%. Advanced economies were around 237. Emerging economies that I think I'll place Ghana in because of being middle income status was somewhere around 191. So you situate these things in a certain context.
Yeah, but I was doing something. You see, you will have all the time to do
to explain these things.
That's fine. To do the things the way you people like to do it. But you see, I was saying, can we first be faithful to the facts? Mm-hmm. Because the president spoke about the state of the nation. Mm-hmm. Is it the state of the nation, or it is not, that we have accumulated energy sector debt of 70 billion Ghana cedis?
Energy sector debt. If I tell you I have that specific right now, I will lie to you.
Okay, so when you don't have the contrary,
I'm coming.
When you don't have the contrary, and you are not in a position to have say,
I think it's fair that you allow me to explain to you. You ask me questions. It's not you're doing one-on-one with me.
I'm doing one-on-one with you. I told you
it's
for
your
now.
Program.
For now, I'm doing one-on-one with you.
So
you will have the opportunity.
So
you will have the opportunity.
Explain.
No, you see, I told you will explain. But before you explain, can we get to first principles? True state of the nation.
So I'm giving you first principle.
There is energy sector debt.
So the energy sector debt is the only thing that determines the true state of the economy.
I'm taking it one by one.
So
I started with the public sector debt.
Respectfully, it's my area. Just allow me to explain. So you ask me. Sometimes we reduce some of these things, in my opinion, not your fault, to the level that it makes so simple and people make arbitrary decisions out of it. You've asked me, allow me to explain the true state of the economy. You can't just go and pick just one parameter somewhere and deal with only the nominal figure without the assets and other things and say, is that true or not? I say,
is it difficult?
Something, are we dealing
Are you
with
unable? So hold on, Sticker. Are you unable?
I don't know where you want
to Sticker, hold on.
Honestly.
Hold on. Are you unable? Are you unable to explain after what? You admit that this is the debt?
No, you're not getting what.
If I put up a figure, which the president has told us is the true state of the nation today? Are you unable to make an admission first before you now explain the other parameters that you want to bring in? Are you unable to do that?
Now?
Please go ahead.
Samson, the main issue is about the true state of the economy.
Correct.
In any case, I don't think it's even, excuse me, respectfully, right, to pick just one parameter, okay, and say that, is this true? If you admit, you can explain. I think anywhere in the world, what are the appraisal variables that we are considering and compare and say that, oh, we left a very bad economy? I think that should be, in my opinion, the right way as a financial economist. So can you allow me to at least give a preamble, the true state of the economy, what we left, the performance indicators, then all these things will come in, where we did well, where we did not do well, then we find the net performance. That will be more appropriate. And I'm telling you, as I'm sitting
so you see, as I sit here,
as I'm
call me the examiner so that you don't set your own questions and answer them.
You're an examiner, but you can examine an area that respectfully, in my opinion, is not your expertise.
I don't need expertise to tell you what the facts that have been churned out are.
I have not,
unless you have contrary facts.
Okay, I'm saying that for you to give specific figure of the energy debt,
yeah.
I don't have it.
You don't have it?
Yes, I don't have it.
So since you do not have the contrary facts, we will deal with what we have.
I'm saying whatever it is. But are we talking about the true state of the economy?
Exactly.
Can you allow me to explain why what our president, His Excellency Dramani Mahama, gave was not the true state of the economy? Can I allow me to explain?
Okay.
Thank you. Samson, the true state of the economy, I don't think just energy sector component in terms of debt, nominal figure.
And Felix joins us.
Can be used to describe the state of our economy. That is totally wrong. No one, you can call any professor in the world. But if you tell me it is an important element or definitional element you are considering, I agree with you. So you pick one side. In any case, by November 2024, okay, Samson, our GDP growth was almost as twice as 2016 we left for this present regime. You can find out. Agriculture was growing 2.7%. You know, it's one of the mainstays of our economy. We left 4.5%. Industry was growing 4.3%. We left 8.9%. Services was growing 2.8%. We left 5%. Primary balance as a percentage of our GDP was positive against the negative they left. Reserve, we had 3 months. Even in terms of nominal figure, we are ahead of them. Inflationary rate, that one, we did worse than them. They left 15.4. We left 23. Then you talk about debt to GDP. We left 74.6. They left 55.6. But even then, the NDC moved to over 70%. Then we had rebasing, or we rebased the economy. It came to 55, but they used the same to appraise ours, so which means ours was worse. But something, in which context we are talking about? We had a situation in the history of this world that Ghanaians were asked to stay home, but they were paid. Public and civil servants. After a few months, they were running shift for almost 21 months. We had revenue shortfall of over 12 billion. Private sector sacked over 40,000 people, losing payees and then losing corporate taxes. And then the whole world, debt to GDP, moved to 238%.
Therefore,
I'm coming.
Therefore, what the president told us is not the true state of the nation.
I think we move beyond. No, I'm coming. All the parameters, most of them, we have done better than he handed over to us. So if you want to appraise, there should be a reference point.
Stephen, we have gone over this kind of arguments over and again for how many years? So the point is that we are discussing the true state of the economy.
And I'm giving you the figures.
Wait.
For economics, you deal with
the true state of the nation. What you are saying are matters we are familiar with.
But they are the matters.
Do they change the state of the nation as presented by the president? Do they change it?
No, they show that the president did not present the actual state of the economy. Because something, let me tell you, this same economy that we are talking about went so bad because of global crisis. You can take or not. You can't say solely, but largely. And the world figures and the world's economic performance indicate and exonerate our government. This is a fact. You can say whatever it is. I've given you the figures from IMF. You can check.
Can you point to, you know, we're having a discussion.
I know, but at least when I make a point.
It's not a monologue. Hold on.
Samson.
When
I make a point, then you can come.
Steve, hold on.
I'll lose my thought.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Hold on. Can you point to a figure put out by the president against any sector which was wrong?
A figure?
Yeah.
The president put up. Something.
He said, Esla, there was the collection of over
so how could you
40.
So how could you say that was
45 billion?
What were you using Esla for? Look at some of the obligations we had to use Esla to perform in terms of even performing our debt obligations. What happened 2023 August? We were able to perform that obligation in terms of paying our bondholders. February 2024, August 2024. At least we had not misused. The fact that you have a fund, that you think the money in it is not enough, does not mean that we had misused the money. But what the president is saying, there are figures that are far better than he handed over. Right now, if you leave this place and we hand this place over to another manager, what happens? We take stock. You left two things. The time the second manager is leaving, are they one? Is it one or three? And we are saying that all the performance indicators, most of them, exonerate us and indicate that the economy that we left for them is far, far, much more stable and restored. I'm not saying there are no challenges. And I've given you, and even the underlying causes, the context we are talking about, means this government, we've done so much. You
heard my question. My question was, if what the president presented is not the true state of the nation, you see, I've been sitting here for over a decade on this show. I'm used to this hackneyed, repeated way of doing these things. That a president presents the state of the nation. Then the opposition say, we are coming to present the true state of the nation. What I want you and I to do differently is, can you point to one figure, one statement, can move from figure, that he made that does not reflect the current state of the economy? The sinking fund, which is called the reserve fund. He says at the time he left office, we had in the dollar account as much as 250 million. What is left in that fund today is $64,000.
Were we supposed to use the fund when the need arises or not? Samson, you're also not getting me right. Listen, you called me, allow me to also speak. Why didn't the president talk about the GDP we left? The primary balance that we left? Why did the president talk about agriculture that
You're
we
not
left?
answering my question.
Why? No, because you're also not asking the right question.
If you decide that you will not answer my question,
because the question you are asking in the context of economics is not right. You've asked me, even talking about debt, okay, it is always a continuous process. Even the time he's quoting might not have been the time we are talking about. And I've said that what he quoted as of that time, I didn't have the figure exactly. What you need to find out is that what constitutes a state or the state of economy or an economy. Where are the performance indicators, relevant ones? Because I'm talking about the GDP. I'm talking about agriculture. I'm talking about industry. I'm talking about services. I'm talking about primary balance. I'm talking about reserve. These are key.
All these things.
These are key.
What did the president speak about or give a figure about? That is not the current state of the economy. But did the president give figures? That's my question.
No, the president did not give figures, in my opinion, unless because sometimes you move out. Figures that were showing that the economy we left generally is better than what they also handed over to us. So something, if you can allow me to explain, I'm also saying that Phyllis is here. He can challenge and they will all go and do fact finding. Whether the GDP we left for NDC government is not higher than 2016, what they left for us. Whether agriculture, whether industry, whether services, whether primary balance, which shows the fiscal strength of your economy when it's positive. That's what we left for them. So some of the parameters...
This economy that has been rated junk. You are telling Ghanaians here.
By who?
This economy, you've forgotten what this economy has gone through.
You are talking about 2022. You are not talking about 2024. And 2022...
This economy that is paying DDEP and it is saddled with it until 2020 what?
Can I explain this thing to you? DDEP is unfortunate. And I side with those who went through that unfortunate period. I mean the holders. But let me tell you, bring any professor in the world to debunk what I'm saying. When there's a holdout in this situation, okay, the only way out is to restructure the debt, deal with the extension of the maturity date and the payment terms so you can make time to pay. But it is very unpalatable to the victims or the bondholders all over the world. It's not only Ghana it has happened. Okay. The problem with our country is that, for instance, you're a lawyer, a great lawyer. When you're talking about something about law, I should be able to allow you. I'm not saying it doesn't mean I can't ask questions. But when somebody understands something and is explaining, and we don't want to accept the reality of it, it's like a doctor diagnosing.
I'm not going to buy law books. I'm going to buy Kinky at the same place that you go and buy the Kinky, and I know what is happening to it. I go to change money. I need to travel. I need dollars. I know what the circumstances. So that cannot be that because I am not an economist or a finance person, I can't appreciate the circumstance.
You move to another area. You can, but let me explain to you. If you had a global crisis, your inflation rate went to 54.1, and it's been able to be reduced to 23%. Samson, can you also use the global performances of these indicators as reference point and see whether Ghana is doing well or not? And I'm also saying that what was handed over to us, most of the primary macro indicators, then one would have also said that now Dumso is back. One would have said that public service workers and then civil service workers, even including health and education, essential services workers, are being sacked. So you are talking about the economy today we are talking about. The only way you can accept what the president said, or NDC, those in government...
Health and education, nobody is being sacked.
No, I have a letter, unless it's fake.
No, I think they've confirmed to us nobody is being sacked.
But I have a letter that I'll show to you.
Okay.
That my constituent is at home now. Unless they are lying to me, I'll give the letter to you, then you find out. But whatever it is, you made a good point advising both MPP and DC on such unfortunate behaviors. I was a CEO, at least Adam, my younger brother, NDC MP, can call and attest to the fact that when I was sent there, the same he came to me that he knew they were going to be sacked, so he was going. I said, no, stay, unless you want to go anytime free. Some people abuse. It doesn't mean even President Mahama is interested in what is happening. And that's why it's good you called on him. But when it comes to the economy, Samson, the figures are here. Now, if you want to translate that into practicality, anytime NDC guys and MPP guys are in power and they are touting themselves of economic macro indicators, especially when they are doing well, they say in our pocket. When they are not doing well, it's an issue. But let me explain to you technically today. Our market is basically SMEs, about 90%. Then we call something defensive market economy, which means that when even the economic indicators are doing well, it takes a long time for people to feel that lag time, unlike the aggressive sectors. So the people are not wrong complaining, but the system we have here is also not wrong because it takes a long time. So these things are there.
Okay.
But what we can say this morning is that in terms of all the parameters that we can use to judge whether economy is doing well or not, how many of them? The president should have then mentioned GDP. Why didn't he mention? The president should have mentioned agriculture, industry, services, primary balance, reserve that we had, even nominal value.
Okay.
The president only mentioned inflation, which we are about 23, and they left 15.4. Why was he doing that? So you couldn't have pick just an area, an agency, and say that the entire economy is bad.
Thank you.
That is not true.
Now, you know,
that is not true.
Take a breather. Now, Felix, the president says that I, John Dramani Mahama, will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. He spoke about how we are saddled with staggering debts and glaring signs of almost deliberate and, in some cases, criminal mismanagement of our resources. How even the IMF restraint was not enough to, as it were, get the MPP government to be prudent in how they did what they have to do. I've asked Stephen and gave up trying to get him to point me to like one specific figure which is not a true state of the economy, which will then give basis for what they are trying to do, which is the true state of the economy. In fact, after the president's presentation, Stephen was the minority group who led the presentation of what he called the true state of the economy to the press. You are not telling the country the truth. For now, I don't know which part you are not telling us the truth about because he has not pointed me to it. What is it?
But Samson, he will never be able to point you to any because there's none. Is he?
So the figures I've given,
Stephen, please
prove me wrong.
Please.
Something I think we are.
I kept quiet. I kept quiet when you were speaking.
We are not using the right.
I am not going
the
to
right framework.
I'm not going to.
And you will do to him what he did
Absolutely.
to you.
I think that
you will do to him what he did
ground
to you.
rules.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's right. That's right.
I'm sorry.
Please go on. Go on.
This is
Article 67 imposes an obligation on every president, and you are the lawyer. My brother is also a lawyer. To give an account.
It's written in English. We don't have to be lawyers to understand it. Go ahead.
So, a president can go to parliament and spend all the time speaking about what he inherited, and he would have fulfilled the constitutional obligation. Not so. But in this instance, the president said that he was not going to dwell on lamentation. He actually went out, if you read the 59-page statement that he put out, to speak about specific interventions that he will be putting in place in almost every sector that he touched on. So not only did the president meet the constitutional obligation, he actually inspired hope in those who were looking for something beyond just indicating what he came to meet. Samson, let me also put it on record that if my brother here tells you that this economy we inherited is better than the one we left them to in this thing, it is a palpable untruth. Look, even at a visceral level, what you feel in your gut, that alone is sufficient to tell everybody that this economy is rotten to the core. Samson, we have only recently engaged in domestic debt exchange, which is the harshest economic policy ever implemented under the Fourth Republic, if not the entire history of Ghana. They took 1.3 million people through excruciating hardships by telling them that money that they were expecting to receive from government after having bought bonds were not going to come. They were going to reduce drastically the interest rate that they had agreed with government, and they were going to extend the maturities. This took 1.3 million people through hell, including Kama. You remember his lamentation on a public platform. May God rest his soul. So even at a visceral level, everybody who has lived in this country knows that this economy cannot be better than what they inherited in 2016. Now let's look at the figures. Samson, there's good reason why the president did not dwell on all the economic indicators. There are about 18 of them. In due course, on 11th March, when the finance minister presents his budget, he will go into details about the specific indicators. If you take out the growth rates, all the rest are worse than what they inherited. Indeed, you recall that after the cabinet session, the first cabinet session, I gave a briefing where I indicated that the numbers are far worse than they even put out. Samson, it is not true that they left a positive primary balance. It is not true. They set a target of 0.5%, which is supposed to be a surplus. And if you know what the primary balance is, it is simply, crudely speaking, your deficit minus interest payments. Because that is statutory. You don't have a leeway. The deficit that they projected for in 2024, they exceeded by a wide margin. The primary balance, if I give you the figure, the market will shake today. It is not true that they left a surplus. They left a negative, far worse than what they projected. Samson, nobody put a gun to their head to project that they will get 18% inflation at the end of 2024. They got 23%, which is far worse than what they projected. When they came to power, they met a public debt of 120 billion. We all know the song and dance that Bawumia and his colleagues in the NPP made over our public debt. When they were leaving, it was 721 billion. Even then, it was because we had some debt write-off recently. After the domestic debt exchange, they had to supplicate before our lenders to let go of our $2.8 billion in debt. That is how come we even have 721. Debt to GDP ratio, we left 55.6. 2 years ago, it was 104%. The gulf is wide. Now, it is in excess of 70%, which is far above the threshold. And in fact, when it comes to debt to GDP ratio, as I was talking, I had him comparing our debt to GDP ratio to other countries. Samson, the figure is even not the issue. Please. Yes, but I did not interrupt when you were making that point. You compared us to countries that have 280% debt to GDP ratio. Samson, you are talking about countries that borrow sometimes at 0.5%. You borrow at 9%. But when you come to debt, the real issue is your ability to repay. And it was glaring that you couldn't pay. That is why you asked bondholders to forfeit about 240 billion Ghana cedis to you in your domestic debt exchange program. You have gone to external lenders to ask them to take a haircut because you can't pay your debt. At the time you took over in 2016, we could pay our debt and still have some to deal with domestic problems. You could not pay it. So how does anybody look at this economy and tell you that it is better than what they inherited? That is dishonesty. And you see, it is one thing to have mismanaged the economy, but to gaslight people, look in the face of Ghanaians and tell them things that they know to be untrue, is to add insult to injury. And it is little wonder that you suffered the electoral defeat that you suffered. Why? The people of Ghana have voted clearly on what they think the state of the economy is. And that's why I said that even if you put aside the figures that I've given you and did a visceral assessment of our economy, it is glaring. Now let's talk about the debt. Look, ECG alone.
Wait, hold on with those.
Yes.
ECG, Cocoa Board, and the rest.
Yes.
Hold on. Was the president being faithful to the situation, our true situation, when he referred to the sinking fund,
yes,
what you call the reserve funds?
Yes.
And left out what Dr. Kabiru Tia Mahama refers us to, that he should have referred to what the Treasury main account, where there was an end-of-year revenue of 3 billion Ghana cedis. There was also 700 million from Treasury bill subscriptions issued in January that remained unused. Additionally, in January alone, the government received 6 billion cedis due to late payment from December. He's saying that there are other sources that the president ought to have been referring to if he wanted to be fair to the facts, rather than just stick to the one part of what he calls a sinking fund and say he left $250 million and the dollar account now is left with only 64,000.
When sometime last 2 weeks I put out the statement indicates that the president has authorized the finance minister to do two things: make sure that he pays off bondholders on 18 February and build buffers towards retiring maturing debts in July and August. The immediate response of the MPP was that they had left buffers. Now, what is a buffer? It is simply earmarked money aimed at a specific activity which is paying debt. That is what it is. All the monies in the accounts we are talking about are monies meant for other things. They were not meant for debt repayment. The account into which you pay money, you keep money to repay debts, at least since 2015, when the NDC established it, is the debt service reserve account, which we popularly call the sinking fund. So when you say you have left buffers, you must indicate exactly what buffers you've left and what it is for. This account, I have the account details here. I've printed all of it. This is a dollar denominated account. This is the CD denominated account. The last transaction that they did in that account, if you take the dollar component, was on 22nd October 2024. After that transaction, the balance in that account was $64,387. And we are talking about payments totaling 15 billion if you add the July and August maturities to it. If you are going to pay 15 billion, do you use $64,000? If you look at the CD account, the last transaction was on 2nd January. After that, the balance was 155 million. We are talking 15 billion Ghana cedis in payment, 6 billion for the maturities that occurred on 18 February, and then 9.2 billion for those that would occur in July and August. And you are talking about Treasury main account and some 700 million, which were not earmarked funds for debt repayment. Look, since we've been in power, in the last 6 weeks, 52 billion Ghana cedis of the debt that they left has been due for payment. I saw that my friends and co, he was in Parliament claiming that we had borrowed 59 billion to create the impression that today, if you pick that public debt, we've added 59 billion Ghana cedis to it. That is not true. All that the Minister of Finance did was to do the routine rollover of maturing debt, which simply means that you go to the Treasury market and take money to replace the debt that you are paying. Now, we are even doing it at a lower interest rate. So when you look at the public debt, it has not moved. The net effect is zero.
There's a question almost all of them were asking when I watched them speak to the press. In less than 2 months, where did you get the money from to do what you are doing? Samson, if they didn't leave you that money?
People have not stopped paying taxes since they left office, have they? That's what they call teaming. Taxes. Have people stopped paying taxes in Ghana? I've also told you that the finance minister has been doing operations on the T-bill market. If you go and put money for general expenditure, goods and services and what have you, in accounts, and somebody comes and creates a reserve to repay funds, you don't say that you have left money for debt repayment. Their specific response was that they left money for debt repayment. That is what they, is that not the claim they made?
Right, that's what they said.
So where is the money that they left to repay debt? Goods and services money is not for debt repayment.
They have consistently made how many? About 3 payments so far.
So
and they did not.
They borrowed money to pay $324 million, which was due for payment in January. Since then, they didn't make any provision for future debt payments. And the account that you put money in for that purpose is this one: Debt Service Reserve Account, as the name implies. So when he tells you that they left money for debt repayment, it's not true. Number 2, we have not borrowed 59 billion, or we've not added 59 billion to the public debt. The net effect on the public debt remains the same. As for rolling over maturities, it is something that he used to do as Deputy Minister of Finance, and he knows it. So why do you go out and mislead the public and create a false narrative just to justify the parlous state of the economy that you left? Samson, how do you tell me that an economy in which, I beg your pardon, in the next 4 years, will be required to pay 280 billion Ghana cedis? Next year alone, we expect tax revenue of just above 200 billion Ghana cedis. 180 billion of that will go into debt servicing because of the debts that they left. ECG alone owes 68 billion. When you asked him about ESLA, he was all over the place. When they came, total debt owed in the energy sector was 10 billion. We had even paid about 2 billion out of it already. They've collected 45 billion Ghana cedis in the last 8 years in ESLA. And yet, they've left a debt of 70 billion in the energy sector, including what ECG owes. Cocoa Board owes 32 billion Ghana cedis. As I speak to you, they left a deficit of over 330 metric tons of cocoa beans to supply. They took money from people, promised to deliver a certain amount. They didn't deliver it. So they've squandered the money, and yet they didn't supply the beans. So now, every cocoa tonnage that we have to produce this year, part of it must be committed to the debt that they created. Because of that, the cocoa sector is losing $840 million.
Okay.
We lose $4,000 on each ton of cocoa that is produced this year because of the agreements they made.
Right. And
Look,
when you
go to the road sector alone, if you take out the debt of 21 billion that they left in terms of certificates that have been presented for payment, they've made commitments of over 105 billion Ghana cedis, some of which that didn't have commencement certificates. And yet, they awarded contracts to contracts. Some of them have moved onto the site. Others have not shown up. But we have to find 105 billion Ghana cedis.
The president said 85% of contracts awarded in road sector have stalled, and over 20 billion was the debt in that area.
Yes, so
you are mentioning 100 plus.
This is when I say commitment. The government says, Stephen, go and do this road. This is the volume of the contract. Samson, go and do this road. This is the volume of the contract. Once it remains on your books, it becomes a commitment. You have committed yourself. You see, you have committed yourself to pay. It amounts to 105 billion. Meanwhile, you don't have 105 billion sitting anywhere to pay.
Steve, I can hear you. I can hear you complain to my friend. I'll come to you shortly.
Look,
I'll come to you shortly. Now, listen.
The health sector alone.
Listen.
If you go to the health sector alone.
Hold on for me.
It's
Steve,
your show, but when it comes to
listen.
I'm being honest.
Stephen, anytime you come on this show, you have this complaint. Let me tell you. Anytime you come on this, Stephen, wait. Anytime you come on this show, you have this complaint. Do you know why? It is not because I am the problem. That, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you.
But if you
check the period, now listen, wait. And you see, this is how the word goes. Viewers, Felix is not coming here claiming that the things the president said are not true. So I will not have too many questions for him. It is Stephen who claims that the things the president said are not true. And for which matter,
explain why.
They will hold the press conference again after what he actually did after the president's presentation to tell us about the true state of the economy. So he will have to take a number of questions from me. And a primary question I asked him, I still am waiting one simple answer to it. He didn't give.
I think I answered you.
You did not.
You didn't want to
Felix,
have your
exactly. Felix, wait.
So let me go.
And in fact, you spend more time than he has.
Something, yes.
Okay.
Something. Yeah. In the health sector alone, if you put all their commitments together, they owe 15 billion Ghana cedis in the health sector alone. If you go to the communication sector, 3 billion Ghana cedis. Even the defense ministry owes 3 billion Ghana cedis.
The question we are asking now is, in the face of all of this, the president says, I will fix this
Absolutely.
economy. How is he going to do it?
He's going to do it. First of all, you have to be prudent in the way that you spend resources. You don't take money and spend all of it on consumption like they were doing. Having all manner of programs with fanciful names and throwing money down the drain. So he said that first of all...
First you use, they squandered. Then now you say they are throwing money down the drain.
Look, in the last 8 years, if you use the same measure that Baumia used to assess the NDC government, in terms of how much revenue came into the kitty, we had about 250 billion Ghana cedis between 2009 2016. They got almost 1 trillion Ghana cedis. And yet they saddled us with this sort of debt. President Mahama says that we have to be prudent. So there will be significant cuts from the beginning, starting with the size of government. Samson, I am government minister responsible for communications, right? Government communications. There was a ministry that used to do that. They had 76 people managing government information alone. Today there's me, there's my deputy Shamima, and less than 5 people involved in the management of government information. So that is a cut there. So there are 60 ministers. At a point they had 125, and you lamented it to the hilt, and nothing was done. When they were leaving, they had almost 80. They are 60 now. They had 336 political appointees, which if you added to over the 600 civil servants and also the president, ran into 1,000. President Obama says he will have none of that. We will come nowhere near that figure under him. Of course, you can't do much about the civil servants.
So it's okay.
But at least the political appointees, you can do something about. And then the resources that we get will be used judicially. Look at what is happening with the national service. Samson.
Right. Hold on. We'll go there.
Let me land.
We'll go there. National service is a separate matter.
No,
thank you.
Thank you. That's fine.
Now, Bobby, I'm going to come to you for very brief comments. You gave me the caveat before we started that you didn't even want to talk about this. But, we are lawyers, but we live in the economy. So we feel what goes on, and you do a lot of transactional issues and so on. So I'll come to you to make a brief commentary. But I'm going back to Stephen because he was making certain points which meant that he had the reactions to make. So, Stephen, in the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to ask you a simple question. Arrow the things you want to talk about and speak to us about them quickly.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. Samson, in economics or finance, it is totally wrong for anybody to just dwell on nominal figures without talking about assets. That's why we talk about debt to GDP. Whether you want to accept or not is a fact. 2, when you are talking about a debt component, it is always emotional process. That is why it's very difficult if somebody gives a figure at a time that you don't have because you are not in government, you can say it's good or bad. Thirdly, Samson, true state of the economy couldn't have been only dependent on one agency's financial issue. That is totally unacceptable. It's never true anywhere in the world. We have key performance indicators that will let Ghanaians know, or the world know, whether the economy is good or bad. And it starts with the GDP. My brother Phyllis, honorable, right now accepted the fact that GDP growth is better than 2016. And it sums up everything. It sums up everything. The question is, how come the president was talking about the state of the economy and mentioned only inflationary rate? How? How come? Time may not allow us. Come back to Cocoa Board. You see, in this world, I'm a sinner, but I believe in God. You can lie to the whole world. Everybody will believe you, but there are consequences. Why do you paint a picture as if Cocoa Board, what is happening is unheard of or is worse situation? The rollover issue, MPP government or administration came to meet almost 200,000 tons from our brothers from the NDC. It's not like somebody took money and then will not supply the cocoa. What they do is they conduct a research, and based on the projections, they go to the market and sell with the anticipation that they are taking this money for the projections they have. When you have a very bad weather, such we had our time, you may not even get up to the number. As I'm talking to you now, the same period, Cote d'Ivoire is having this same rollover issue, about 500,000 tons. NDC the same. So it's a natural issue with Cocoa Board. Now you come to road, and the NDC, 1 kilometer of road, even that time, was costing Ghana over $444,000 per kilometer. Ours is less than 300,000. So go and check all these facts and figures. Why are they not talking about the fact that under our regime or administration, we have been able to cultivate about 40,000, I think, hectares or acres of cocoa for Ghana to benefit from? We want to do 70 and it's ongoing. Why are they not talking about that? We put measures in place like that. We are no longer doing even syndication. And we're able to, within 4 or 5 months, get Ghana over $500 million through Bank of Ghana. These facts are there. Now talk about defense ministry. How can you talk about monies incurred at a ministry and you not talk about what the money was used for? This is highly mischievous. You can call the defense ministry. Something, all the list, unprecedented things we've had here, just to protect and preserve and make sure that we live in a sub-region that all our neighbors are engaging in war. That makes us highly insecure. And the army or defense ministry, through the army leaders authority, approach government. The NDC MPs in government today were part of the meetings. If they care to know, you can call Honorable Atoforsen. You can call all the ranking members, defense ministry and finance. We're all together. They enumerated the things that if we don't get, Ghana was sitting on a very serious. Listen, then we got money to buy these things. They are all here. Over 150 armored personnel, whatever. Over 100 armored personnel days. Over 20 ships days. They are all here. So how can you come and tell the world that we have incurred this debt as if we have taken the money not to use for the right purpose? Something.
Your time is up.
Are we still not? I'm sorry, I want to wind up. Thank you. Are we still not paying billions of cedis every month that Ghanaians are supposed to pay as emolument? Are we still not, rolling up these major pro-poor policies? What are we talking about? So we think that a better economy is one that seems that the GDP growth is giving us great indications. Our reserve, our primary balance, you can ask any professor who wants to be honest with God. Then, even pro-poor policies that are benefiting Ghanaians, in kind and cash, they are all going on. But if you're talking about an area, be honest with yourself that
thank you.
MPP government did not take money.
Thank you.
And they don't provide or produce the cocoa.
Just 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
That is not true.
Again, my brother keeps on harping about the GDP growth. I've told you that there are 18 indicators. Nobody doing proper analysis of the economy uses one.
Industry, services,
the most critical.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I think you have to be fair.
Yes,
and respect
right.
viewers.
No, Minister, you are right.
Samson, the most critical, if you want to assess whether the economy has been properly run, is the deficit and primary balance. Because they show you the difference between your expenditure and your revenue. Anybody who spends far more than they earn is not managing his life right and is not managing the economy right. Look, both targets that they set for the deficit and the primary balance were missed by wide margins. You see, I know the finance minister will be alarmed hearing me say this. There's a reason why the president was restrained from putting that information out. But in the budget, which will come in about 2 weeks, he will put it out. Look, they did 800% worse than they had projected for the primary balance.
Sorry.
So it is not true when he tells you that they left a positive primary balance. It is not, they left it in the negative by a wide margin. Again,
better than
this talk about road cost is not true. Look, Samson, you can ask people at the road ministry. It costs $1 million today to do 1 kilometer of asphalt. In some instances, it costs 1.2 million. If they came to me 300,000, then we're doing far better. So again, it is not a defense. No. He has also not been able to defend the debts.
Which debt?
Look, you have run a country into a debt so that you yourself have told the whole world that you cannot pay debt that you owe. You have had to go around begging. Look, what they're
saying, don't discount Ukraine and COVID.
But look, Ukraine itself, how much debt do they have? Ukraine itself, how much debt do they have? Why? Was Ghana the only, in fact, to quote Baumier's Palace, did COVID jump over Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, and come to Ghana alone? What is the state of debt of all the countries surrounding us compared to ours? It was because of recklessness due to elections in 2020. You would have thought that because of the experiences we had after 2020, they would have learned lessons. But they have repeated the same thing in the 2024 elections. And that is how come we are having the outturns that we are having with the deficit and the primary balance. Every other indicator that matters has gone south. So my brother cannot defend that record. Indeed, they were clad in black in parliament. And I remarked to the majority leader that it is obvious that they are mourning the state of the country that they left us. Because if you run a country like this, perhaps you should wear sackcloth and sit in ash.
Let's see those pictures in parliament as we wrap up. Yes, Bobby, I don't know what you will have to say briefly about it. I had a question or two for Steven, but he doesn't want me to ask questions. They would have actually helped him to elicit more, the things he's saying to help his viewers. Go ahead.
So my brother, Derek Owusu-Echan, has been laughing at me the whole time I've been sitting here. He said, he didn't take your economics serious. Now you're looking away. But I would want to say...
we have been speaking to, as in multimedia, we have been speaking to what you call the aspects since the statement was made. Professor Bokpins called them. And some of them say even President Mahama has been measured or restrained. Yes. I heard somebody actually say he's been a bit charitable in talking about the real state of the economy because it's worse than what he had to talk about.
Samson, I would want to say from my perspective, what I expected from the president was that, during campaign, you tell us your manifesto.
That's right.
Once you get into office, you have an opportunity to assess the financial health of the country that has been handed over to you.
Correct.
To see if some of the things you have said as a manifesto can be moved into policy, if there are laws that must be passed to help with the implementation. Then you tell us deliverables to help us measure the things that you said you are going to do. Okay. And it's been exactly 50 days or so since he was sworn in as president. Now, I didn't listen to all of it, but I read the statement after. You see that in there's some sense of him appreciating what exactly was expected of him. Now, I'm not in a position to deny or admit, like lawyers will say, the figures that have been thrown out. But what I wish to say is that
once we do not have contrary figures, we go with those figures.
I do not
That's my
think
principle.
that the ordinary Ghanaian expected the president, when he was delivering the State of the Nation address, to do a comparative analysis. That in 2016, when I was going, this is how I left it. In 2025, after I was sworn in, this is what I have seen. I do not think that is what the ordinary Ghanaian expected him to do. And so it would be quite unfair for us to now say that when he gave the State of the Nation address, he should have put it in the context of what he met in 2016, or when he was leaving office, rather, in 2016. I think that would not be fair, because 2016, 2025, he said it himself, almost 10 years since he last gave the State of the Nation address.
So that, for example, you would have wanted him, before he said he's going to fix the broke economy, you didn't want him to tell us that our debt is 721 billion.
I expect him to say it, because that is what he has. That is why I said during election he gave us a manifesto. After power has been handed over to him, that he has an opportunity to assess the health of the country, he now has to situate his manifesto in the context of what the State of the Nation is, and then be able to tell us, okay, based on the manifesto, these are the policies that my government will pursue.
He says a lot of them.
That is what I said. That some of which because he mentioned allies that he is asking to be passed for implementing some of the manifesto promises.
Specific amounts for specific projects.
And then now we expect us, or we, the ordinary persons who are bereft of all these economic expertise, to now have a basis to measure him. After maybe the next time he comes to us to give us the State of the Nation, we will not be comparing him to what he inherited in 2024. We will not be comparing with the deliverables that he had given to us.
Is it that you simply wanted him to just say, in agriculture, for example, he tells us that we import, we import 95% of our poultry at the cost of, $300 million US dollars annually. You expected him not to say that and simply say the options he gave, including the Nkukon Kitinkiti project.
Because we will not know why he is giving those policies if he doesn't tell us what the state is.
I want to understand where you are faulting him.
I'm not faulting him.
Something right.
I've never said no. What I'm saying is that what he did is what I expected him to do. That is what I'm saying. I'm not faulting him.
But he shouldn't have gone to figures at the time he left office and now.
But he didn't do that. Honorable is saying that to understand.
He did. In the sinking fund, he said that when I was leaving, I left you a sinking fund with the dollar account of $250 million.
Yes.
Now the dollar account is 64,000, not $1 million.
Yes. And he gave inflation.
So what I'm saying is that between the 2016 that he left the 250 and the 2025 that power has handed over to him, we would not have expected him to tell us that, okay, I'm aware that between the 2016 and 2025, this is what the money was used for. Because that's whatever the money was used for has already been given by the president that handed over to him. Because I think that every year of President Anado's office, he gave us the State of the Nation. And so if the current president says that this is what I have met, these are my policies, these are the deliverables, then we can measure him with that. So, and I think that is what he did. But for me, the State of the Nation, all these big languages and big words that have been used, I think for the ordinary person should be measurable by either the cost of living, the standard of living, and as a professional, the cost of doing business. And then we cannot run away from the fact that in the last 8 years or 10 years, it's not been reducing. The cost of living, the cost of living has been increasing.
That's right.
The cost of doing business, and that is something that I hope that the GIPC boss really focuses on, because maybe he's here, he can carry the information. Countries across the sub-region are wiping away this minimum investment requirements for foreign direct investment. But in Ghana, we are still holding on to, you have to bring $1 million as a minimum to be able to be given the permit to engage in trading if you're a foreigner. And it's diverting a lot of foreign direct investments into other countries across the sub-region, like Ivory Coast. The cost of import duties is now almost 50% of the cost of product you are bringing. people are now sending goods because I was told by some importers that it's cheaper to send products to Ivory Coast, clear them and transport them to Ghana. And so if next year we still have this same situation, then we'll be able to measure the deliverables that the president has delivered. So I think from my expectation was that beyond all this was what it was, this is what it is, and that I was looking at him giving us policy directions, deliverables that we can measure. And from what I read in his statement, largely, I think he did that.
You read all the, mine
Yes.
is 56 pages.
It's the same pages that I have.
59.
But it depends on
Okay, mine
how
is
you
okay. Thank you. Stephen, I'm sorry, but we take a break here. And when we return, we are going to the matters that the president says he's got the anti-corruption organizations or the security, agencies to zoom into action. And we are just isolating 3 of these to look at. There are too many issues that have come up. But he mentions the $2 million Sky Train, call it the Ghost Sky Train. He spoke about the over 80,000 ghost names at the National Service Secretariat. Remember, this will not be the first time this president will be the one giving a charge to the security to investigate national security. He did it once, and I was a lawyer in one of those cases defending guys at the National Service Secretariat. Yeah, I remember myself, Kisie Jabing, Egbert Fable, going to the BNI then, and then they holding our clients, not giving us opportunity to see us, and we getting crazy and mad that we were doing the wrong things. Things don't seem to change, right? And then there is Abronye's comments about hoarding of 550 million Ghana cedis by the president, which has also led to an invitation to him to assist. We'll be right back.
One the basic mode of recruitment, because
as part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, ORA, I've already tasked our investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service Ghost Name scandal to justice.
Right. You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My guest in the studio, former Deputy Minister of Finance, Stephen Amoah, Dr. Stephen Amoah. I have also Felix Kwache Ofosu also here. And he is in charge of government communications. And of course, Bobby Banson is a lawyer, teaches the law, but very familiar with a lot of, financial transaction matters. And you saw his area of interest. He went to the GIPC. Right. Prince Henry Nkofrodia says, why is Sticker saying John Mahama didn't give the true state of the nation? Is Dr. Amoah not aware that national service personnel were owed 4 months before they left power? John Mahama will deliver. So let's support him to give us the Ghana we deserve. Excellence Reign says John Mahama is a great leader and Ghanaians must thank God for giving the country such a leader. He has taken the task upon himself to fix the mess created by the Akufo-Addo government. The Lati says the problem with Dr. Amoah is that he's too book long. So when he's asked a practical question, he gets jittery, frustrated, and start throwing tantrums. Okay. Collins Little Tete says, while some may view the NPP's press conference as routine or predictable, they play a significant role in the democratic process by ensuring that multiple perspectives are heard and that the government remains accountable to the people. Certainly, if they didn't do that, then they would have checked their responsibility as a responsible opposition. They have to do that. We have to get to know where, if the government is giving gaslighting us, we must get to know. But I want all of them to try and be faithful to the facts to start with. As simple as that. Right. Okay. So, should I read a few more messages? Okay. I think Ernest says that, okay, please ask in the end, if the economy was all good, why were we not paying our debts? Thank you. And relative to agricultural growth, to the country, food inflation, does it make sense? Okay, everybody in the way they are processing what is going on. Okay, please, I don't discuss my take, so I don't really read messages about them. The police officers, those of you who are not happy that I said there shouldn't be a crusade to remove Dampare. Okay, so, and at the risk of, doing something I don't do. So this is how I do my things sometimes. I knew Dampare from nowhere. When he showed up and showed that we can get crime down, we can get people to respect, we can get people to comply with law. It doesn't matter who you are. He was arresting MPs and doing all of that. That's what I do. I just support such people. For example, what's his name? Oliver Bakavomo. I knew him from nowhere. Once he showed up and this messed system, he was beginning to speak directly to it and provide solutions, he became a friend. That's how I do my things. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk about National Service Ghost Name, SkyTrain, and Abronia. The president said that, and I'm going to begin with you, Felix. The president said that he has asked them to put people on wanted lists. I was getting a little worried that he should be saying these things. Oral is very important to him in the scheme of things.
Yeah, but ultimately he has responsibility for the government. And you know that the Attorney General does not go to court, at least on some matters, without recourse to the president. So the decision to prosecute people is something that has executive backing, often. Samson, you are right. Oral was a key plank in the NDC 2024 campaign. And if I am not exaggerating, perhaps besides the 24-hour economy, it was the most popular campaign promise. Now, you would ask yourself, how come it became so popular? I think the reason was simple. People saw visible signs of corruption. People saw that there were people in government whose lifestyle did not readily match what they were supposed to be earning. I mean, the scandals used to break out. You on this program have delved into many of them. So it was obvious that people were yearning for a certain level of accountability. That is how come Oral became so popular. When the Oral Committee was set up, it gained tremendous public support. In fact, they were inundated with claims and allegations.
Over 2,000.
Over 2,000 of them. It shows a certain high level of public interest. Now, having been elected with such a wide margin, which margin you can legitimately infer was also contributed to by public expectation that he would take action against evidence of corruption, meant that he had to do what he had promised the people, which is to look into the claims of corruption, and where there is sufficient basis to hold anybody to account, do so. So the oral report was presented about 3 weeks ago, and it has a tall list of cases in which specific individuals have been identified as persons of interest. Let's put it that way at this point. Now, it was necessary then to move on to conduct proper investigations through accredited state agencies in order to determine whether there was a basis to hold anybody accountable for anything. So the security agencies began their action. Let me say that the Attorney General has also been instrumental, because he has studied the document, and where he believes that there is basis for people to be brought in for questioning, he has indicated so and worked with the security agencies to do so. At least 3 cases have come to public attention. The first being the National Service scandal, where 2 people, I believe, I think an accountant and the former deputy executive director, have been taken in for questioning. Through lawful means, nobody's rights have been abused or anything. At least I have not heard the lawyers complain so, which was not the case in the past. Something, what happened was that, I think early this year, early February, the National Service Secretariat, the new leadership, inherited a certain structure. So they made representations to the finance minister about arrears that dated back to August of 2024 and said that this was creating suffering for national service personnel, and therefore there was a need to clear it. All of it amounted to about 226 million eventually. But the finance minister saw the figures. And what happens is that every month, the National Service Secretariat or Authority, I beg your pardon, sends a letter to the Controller and Accountant General, sends the number of people on their payroll, and indicates the amount of money that have to be paid. So on 4th, 30th December 2024, that was when the last letter was sent, and that is what the new leadership was following up on. They indicated that they had 180,030 national service personnel who needed to be paid a total amount of 128.8 million Ghana cedis. Now, the finance minister became suspicious, and therefore he demanded a head count. When that head count happened, we found out it was just about 98,000 service personnel who were actually posted and who were working. So based on this, the finance minister was able to pay all the outstanding arrears dating back to 4th August. It became obvious, therefore, that tens of thousands of names had been put on the payroll in a manner that constituted clear payroll fraud. And before this government took over, Samson, you are aware that there have been, let me say, murmurings and grumblings in some corridors about ghost names. Admittedly, it's not the first time. You spoke about having to defend some people who were caught in this way. President Mahama commissioned discrete investigations. I was going to say clandestine, but that would be highly irregular. Discrete investigations into the matter. And it turned out at the time that some 55,000 ghost names or so had been added. And you know what happened. Everybody in charge of anything was swept aside and put on trial. About 100 people or so were put on trial. You had to defend some of them. We are here to get an update because we left power before those trials were concluded.
In those trials, because I was involved, let me tell you, at least for some of my clients, they admitted to their wrong. So I made them put in a plea for guilty, and then they were made to pay, and then they went free.
That is fine. But at least we exacted some punishment for doing so. So one would have thought that learning from this, those who take over will put in place systems to improve upon it so that these things do not happen. But it turns out that the situation has worsened to the extent that if you go back, I have letters dating back to October 2024, where they were demanding payment for 150,000 people. In November 2024, they were demanding payment for 180,000 people. Then, on 30th December 2024, they brought another one demanding payment for 180,000 people, which meant that these monies have been going into UNIBRA. Indeed, we estimate that on the average, every month, 50 million Ghana cedis went into the pockets of those behind this scheme. And if you total the period that this has been going 50 million Ghana cedis every month. And that is money that Stika and his colleagues in the finance ministry could have used for any number of investments in other sectors of the economy. So this is clear fraud that cannot be countenanced. Unfortunately, some of the people involved are said to have absconded. There are some who have gone into countries knowing that we do not have non-surrender agreements, extradition agreements with them. They've gone there specifically to evade justice, but steps are being taken to ensure that they are brought back. But at least 2 people have now been held, they've been questioned, and due process will take place. There's also the matter of the Sky Train, where
the NSS matter, the president speaks about it, and it's almost conclusive. You just spoke about it, and you look at something which is clearly fraud.
It is clear. It is clear.
But we are going to put this before court.
Of course. The basis upon which the Attorney General will go to court is the fact that he is convinced that there's wrong. Otherwise, he won't go and waste his time.
Okay, the Attorney General says he will not put a matter in court when he has not done the investigation.
But you see, sometimes it's so easy. My brother is wearing a green attire. I cannot say it is blue. You know, it is so glaring. It is something. When you see the letter, you bring a letter for 180,000 people to be paid. And we are not talking about the beginning of national service. This is several months down the line. You cannot allege that, okay, you thought 180 people were posted, but they didn't show up. This is several months down the line. And then when you ask for a head count, you get almost half the figure. And this has been going on.
You were moving on to the Sky matter.
I think 2 million.
And many people will also remember that the NSS matter, the Fourth Estate Media Foundation for West Africa Group, also did their own
I have seen
data analysis.
Where
analysis
who are as old as 95 years old are said to be doing national service.
Yeah, I have seen
50-year-olds
I have seen them.
60-year-olds certainly could not have been within the
when the injunction was procured against the Fourth Estate from going public, I went as their lawyer to get it.
And so the evidence is compelling.
Yeah,
it is so compelling.
So
but
I've seen some of those.
Exactly.
But from where I sit, I always say, let's put them before the
courts. It's a fundamental principle that nobody can quarrel with. But some of the evidence.
You're going to SkyTrain.
Yeah, SkyTrain.
Briefly about that and the Abroyens matter.
Some $2 million or so is said to have been paid to an entity for work that cannot be readily verified. And therefore, there's an element of causing financial loss to the state or any other number of charges that can be gleaned from that activity. So there to Professor Amoyokunfi, who is the board chairman of GIF. It is GIF that actually paid the money. The money came from them. And the chief executive, and then Mr. Jogati, who is the former minister.
Yeah.
They are persons of interest. So all of them have been invited and they've been questioned pending further investigations.
Jogati is clear that there's nothing untoward.
No problem. Of course, he's entitled to state.
You come out clean. Yeah.
He's entitled to state, but we respect that. Due process must take its course. But as of now, the Attorney General believes that there are questions to be answered, and therefore he's conducting these investigations.
Is it a matter of fact that $2 million indeed?
Yes, but
was paid
it is yes,
for no work done?
It has been paid, and yet the work for which it has been paid is not clear. So they must show what specific work was done with this money, and that is why the platform will be created for them. If indeed the Attorney General believes that there's sufficient basis to go to court to present
$2 million paid for zero work.
They said we were going to do SkyTrain. We were going to do SkyTrain. We were here. It was a huge matter. We went to sign some contracts with some company whose formation even raises questions about their capacity to deliver and all that. But there's no indication as to the work that has been done to merit that payment. That is why the Attorney General is looking into it. There's also the matter of Mr. Ofoyata. I know that the OSP is looking into some matters. But Mr. Ofoyata is also allegedly complicit in some of even these cases that I have mentioned. And therefore, the Attorney General believes that he has questions to answer. Of course, he has indicated that he is indisposed, not in the jurisdiction, and he will come at a certain date. When he comes, every opportunity will be afforded him to answer for specific actions that he took and justify why further action should be.
Abroyens situation, people say this is wild stuff that in the political milieu they have made. So why do you want the security to go after him?
I am even surprised that you've tabled for discussion. You know, sometimes I am of the view that sometimes not everything that you follow. Some of the claims, with the greatest respect to everybody else, pure nonsense.
So why wouldn't the president tell the investigative bodies that don't pursue
The president
this?
has not been interested in this. He has not lodged any complaint. So sometimes the security agencies feel they must look into it. I don't think that some of these claims will be followed. That's my personal view. There are those who would argue that it has security implications. If you say that the presidency is holding, I am at the presidency. You know, since the ministry was collapsed, I've had to pitch camp at the presidency.
You're holding 550 million, which is supposed to be used to be paid to pay those to be dismissed from the place.
How? No, how? Who has been dismissed? No, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Something. So it's not something I want to spend waste any time on. He himself has gained a reputation for saying things that, with the greatest respect, do not make any sense.
The wheels of justice, they say, grind slowly, but they come to a certain end.
Grind efficiently.
Right, thank you.
I'm not sure whether...
Let's hear from Dr. Stephen Amoah. How do you feel about these things that are beginning to come up, and then we see spirited defense from the NPP spokespersons all over the place?
Samson, thank you very much. It's good that these issues, I'm sure you're in a better position to even analyze them more than me. I'm a financial economist. But I think you made a very good point that there are issues that generally people can comment based on what is prevailing. Samson, I think all these issues, as of now, still remain something that one cannot draw any inferences on them. Because what does the Constitution say? 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana talks about the fact that one cannot be declared or pronounced, or whatever your terminology is,
presumed
guilty,
innocent
unless a court of competent jurisdiction
or you have yourself admitted your guilt.
And it also talks about the opportunity to be given fair hearing.
That's right.
So I think as we are here at this juncture, there still remain allegations. I'm not condemning what is going on, and I'm not saying they are right. Okay. The only concern I have is that when the NDC came into power this time, within the shortest possible time, I think the speed is almost comparable to the speed of light. Those known to be NDC members, and by saying this, I'm not saying they have also committed anything wrong. I can't say that. Most of them are my friends and my brothers. And even apart from that, I have to be honest with you and God that I don't have any reason credibly to say they are wrong or right. But they were going through the judicial processes, which were their legal mandates. And then they were cleared without any investigation, nothing, all of them. Does it mean that what the Constitution says, Article 17, about the fact that we are all equal before the law, is not being adhered to?
You are talking about the withdrawals and nollie prosequas.
All those things. I'm not a legal person, so I may be wrong. If I go wrong, forgive me.
Can we refocus the debate to what is happening?
But I'm talking about the same thing. They are not different. I'm talking about why.
That's a subject we have.
So why the selective justice?
Okay.
Why the selective justice? Because I think they should have also allowed others to go through the processes and come out clean. Probably all of them hadn't even done anything bad. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So why they were asked to go somewhere? And the others, we had to set a new body to get people based. And we are talking about...
Is it your view that because this has happened, if there is suspicion of wrongdoing about anybody in the SWAL administration, they should also be let go?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Not at all, but I'm saying that Article 17 says what? Equality before the law. Equality. Fair playing field. Justice. That's what we are talking about. But is that what we are seeing today? And then something. One thing I'm also surprised at is that it looks like we are behaving like my brother Felix made a comment. And a lot of people made this comment. And the other day, on the floor of the parliament, maybe because of his busy schedule, I don't know whether he was there, I advise all of us that we should all be careful that things, when we are in government or even in opposition, we say about each other. That Ghanaians, some people see you not having much, then as soon as you come to power, you're having a lot. Something. You may be here today, you have your legal practices, you may be doing other things other people do not know. Honestly, I can tell you as a matter of fact, and I'll not mention name, ethically, that there are people who own properties and mansions today, they have big cars today, they are politicians. That I personally, and they are in NDC, that God is my witness that I used to give them money. It doesn't mean they can be richer than me today, because you don't know what they are doing. So this perception that somebody is in politics, he's rich or otherwise, I think they are statements that we should all be careful, not defining us in a light that even the public or external stakeholders
we know the politicians who are business people. And we know those of them who have a track record of business and we can trace the source of their wealth. But as the Constitution,
you know all of them.
As the Constitution,
no, you know all of them.
We know these politicians. And we know those that, like you and I, we have been friends from when? If suddenly something comes up with you and I don't know the source, I should be a little...
But Samson, when you knew me almost 30 years ago,
right?
I was driving my car.
Of course.
You knew?
Yeah.
I wasn't driving the car bought for me by my father.
That's right.
When you knew me, as early as 1997, I was having my cars and my properties. I'm sure from that time to now, you don't know the additional things I do. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I am talking about. So let us be careful and make sure that we stay within the stipulates of the law and make sure that we don't... I'm one person that, you see, asset declaration is a good thing. But if you really understand how a financial economic structure or system is done properly per the standards of the world, will create a lot of problems. Okay. But we live in a country that sometimes you're even paid not through the right means. In fact, I was even suggesting that if you had one power, I would have advocated for the fact that if you are working with anybody on a regular basis and you are paying the person more than 500, it has to go through the bank. Because something, let's be honest, the way our system is, if we all want to be very honest, you may jail somebody who might not necessarily be guilty or even otherwise, or even let somebody go scot-free who might be guilty. So there are a lot of things we need to look at critically.
Unless you don't trust our courts.
Can I come back to the railways? I'm saying, allow me to also speak.
Oh, you are not coming back to railways. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Samson, I think the work done by the previous regime when it comes to railway industry, I beg you, I'm not saying the concerns they are raising is rubbish. And that's why the courts are there. They fall within the discussions that I've put on this table right now. But something, we don't have to also live in a country that when there are great accomplishments, achievements, we water them down, creating an impression that everything about NDC, MPP, or government is always specific.
This is specific. That there was a certain sky train.
I don't have a problem.
No, I have to ask you the question. Sorry. Hold on. Hold on. Let me ask you the question. It's not about somebody's speaker.
Okay, please.
When I have to intervene, I intervene.
It's your table. You go on.
So we are not talking about railway as a global subject matter. We are talking about sky train. There was a project that was a sky train project. We are told that $2 million of taxpayers' money we don't have was spent on that project. As we speak today, there is no sign of any such thing. So that's the issue.
Samson, and I said that. I am not saying that what you are saying is trivial. I'm not heaping scorn on that. And it falls within my earlier presentation or submission I just made. That is why the Constitution talks about fair hearing, talks about you can be pronounced guilty or otherwise only by courts of competent jurisdictions declaration, or you yourself admitting that guilt. I said that, and it falls within. But I'm also saying that we should always not also dwell on the negatives that go on. It's giving a lot of bad impressions in our society. That what has been achieved, the accomplishment.
Have you seen signs of a sky train? Have you seen signs of a sky train? Is it true that $2 million was paid for the purpose?
My sentence? Respectfully, can I complete my sentence? I'm just begging you.
It's difficult for you two of us doing this, right?
Because you're not making me complete at least when I end the sentence, you ask me. That's all that I'm saying. At least when I'm saying, I'm not going to condemn A or B.
We're working with time. Please, quick about it.
All that I'm saying is that in our country, let us also develop a culture of letting people know the good things that we do so that people will be encouraged. Because the railway sector, what was done under Nanado, it is, in my opinion, I could be wrong, unprecedented. But that doesn't mean the issues you are raising should not be given the needed attention that NDC government is giving. That's the point that I'm making.
Okay.
Then I can come to, okay, please, it's okay. Take your table.
Go to where you want to go and finish.
I think he surrendered.
What I'm trying to say is Abronye's thing.
Right.
Abronye's statement about the president, in my opinion, he knows where he got his information from. If I were the president, okay, I would let the due process go on. Do you know why? We live in this country. People say a whole lot of things about Felix, about Stephen, about Samson, about anybody. They go scot-free. And it defines a certain opinion. And the public will see you and they think, hey, you are a thief, you are this. Now people hate politicians. But it's not every politician who is corrupt,
That's
whether
correct.
NDC and MPP.
That's correct.
And also, sometimes, it clouds even the good things that politicians do in our country. And it's not only Abronye, it's not only under one regime. This thing has been going on for far too long. You live in a society that people conclude on almost everything. Even if a man and woman sitting in one car, oh, they are dating. If somebody has any bad car, either he's a dealer in one thing or he stole money. I think that perception is discouraging a lot of people in our society, even sometimes, to demonstrate what they have for other people to be motivated and work hard.
Right.
So I think the process has to be allowed to take its course. If also Abronye knows that, oh, he made one of the flimsy statements tarnishing the image of our president, he should come and apologize.
Well, he says he feels intimidated and he will not be intimidated. So let him appear before the...
That is all that I'm saying.
The criminal investigation authorities, and let's see
but he might have been privy to things we don't know.
Yes, 550 million hoarded in the presidency. And he speaks about, credible sources that he has.
But how could he have known that?
Exactly. So Bobby, Like Stika is saying, well, they are in public service, and the constitutional injunction is that they have to declare assets, and if they have acquired wealth, that is not traceable to inheritance, traceable to loan, traceable to gifts, and so on. That would have been acquired in contravention of the Constitution. So once they are in public service, they must also be careful the kind of lifestyle they lead, right? What do you make of the president's pitching of oral as a major plank of his statement, and that these things are beginning to roll out? And do you find problems with him like I do, that he shouldn't be here saying, I've told them to declare somebody wanted? Is that a job of a president to do?
Samson, the president obviously does not have judicial power. The Constitution is very clear. Article 125, final judicial power rests in the judiciary. I heard the president saying that he has directed the state institutions to investigate and take the necessary steps. Perhaps if he goes ahead to actually direct them what to do, then one would have said that he is influencing the exercise of that authority, because no security service is also supposed to act per the direction of any other person. They're supposed to act based on the evidence and then the law.
This is Ghana. So, they get pets of suspects that they give to them to work.
So when Honorable Felix was speaking, I was marking his choice of words, and I must say I was quite impressed. You see, he used words like persons of interest. And he was very careful the words he used, so that it will not be as if there's already a conclusion that these people that are being...
But in fact, that is actually the language used in the oral reports. Persons of interest. They don't say...
Okay, I have not seen the report yet. Okay. So if you, so that you will not be tempted to conclude that there's a conclusion somewhere that we must necessarily put these people behind bars. And so every other thing, then you think that, okay, the investigations, everything is only just for the sake of it, but the report has already been concluded. And so if the state entities will follow due process, we've been in this country where the people have been accused, politically exposed persons. They've been put before the courts. At first instance, they've been convicted and sentenced. The conviction and sentences have been overturned on appeal, and even up to the Supreme Court. So I always believe in the judicial system. Whether it goes right or wrong, they are also human beings. They're entitled to make mistakes. But at least the persons who have been accused at whatever levels of the investigation must be afforded the opportunity to go through the due process. I believe that is a fundamental pillar of our constitution and our democratic dispensation, that no president, no politician can either trumpet or be denied that opportunity. Right. And so I'm looking forward to just and honest investigations. The persons that have been affected would have an honest opportunity to put their defenses forward, irrespective of political colorization. Because some of the monies that are being mentioned are monies that could have gone into other projects that will benefit everybody. And so if indeed some of these things have been done, then the people who have done it, not the people who are suspected to have done it, or people merely by virtue of the fact that they occupy certain positions, because there are some times that the people who actually commit these offenses may not be the political heads of these institutions. It's very possible that the political heads of the institutions may not even be aware that some of these things have happened. There are instances where political heads have signed documents that it turned out that the document that they signed were different from the ones that were used to procure the products or the services. And it was only when they were put before court that it turned out that this is not the document that I was signed. And so let's not be quick to jump to conclusions. Sometimes you see that when these stories are put there, pictures of certain heads of those institutions are associated with them. The public perception is fed into it that, oh, this story has been published against this picture. It is very easy for the ordinary person to already, say that, oh, this person is guilty of this.
No, but it's your job to read a story.
That's what I'm saying. It's not everybody that would
could
read.
Be that your picture has been put up, but
yes.
The story about you is different.
That is what I'm saying, that if the headline is there and the picture is put there, some people may just conclude
That's their
problem. But at the end of the day, the person whose picture has been put there would be wrongly, thought of in a certain way. So I am happy.
Saying, if I haven't said something about you and then you think this is how you are thought of, that's your problem.
Something. I'm not saying that it is right or wrong. Okay. I'm saying for the ordinary person who may not read all the stories, may be quick, to jump to conclusion. So I will be happy if thorough investigations is conducted into these things. But I want to side with, I don't know if I can call you Sticker too.
Oh, perfect. He likes to be called Sticker. Perfect.
I want to side with him on his reaction to Abronye's thing. And Honorable, I think that you should be concerned. Because you see, and sometimes I've made this point several times to you in private and on the platform.
Yeah.
We are getting into a state in our development as a country that people who have opportunity of platforms say things that they know is not true or ought to have known it's not true.
Right.
But they just say it and they throw it out there and they walk away.
Yeah.
And it is now, it's an ordinary politician. Ordinary in quotes.
You are not saying what he's saying is true or not
true. No. That's why I said people who say things that they know are not true or ought to have known.
100%.
That's what I said. Say it and just said, it's political talk. They start from maybe you are doing two persons are on the political platform campaigning for maybe MP. Yeah. And then let's throw that at each other for what it is worth. But it is climbing up to the seat of the presidency.
Right.
And this is the highest seat of the land. Something, if you say 550 million cedis, it is money laundering. It is money laundering because our laws do not permit such cash to be held by any person at all. It is money laundering. If there is serious evidence of it, the OSP should be interested. Or since he says he doesn't have the jurisdiction to strictly deal with money laundering, maybe the attorney generals or IOCO should be interested. So I am happy that he's been invited. Of course, it doesn't mean that he's guilty of any offense. If he doesn't have the evidence to prove, he may decide to apologize and said it is one of those things. But at least...
Would that be enough?
That's what, at least it will serve as a deterrent, not only to MPP people or to NDC people, that there should be a limit in the public discourse.
It's all about the place, claiming he's being intimidated and all of that, and he will not be cowered into submission. It doesn't give any sign.
Yes, but I believe that if that is his posture as well, it may only be because he thinks he has evidence.
That's typical of him. You know him, right?
Sometimes I don't want to assume that I know him.
Concluding here now.
I don't want to assume that I know him.
Concluding about what?
Now you said typical of him.
I'm not concluding about anything. Very typical about him.
What I'm saying is, Samson, you remember?
He's a type who cannot be on this platform because they spew a lot of things unverified.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah, some really wild claims. I don't know the places where they are hosted. I don't know if the host feel they have a responsibility. You know, and you have, like we are talking about, you have these bloggers all around the place.
That's what I was going to say. There's a particular jurisdiction
simply engaged in pure defamation and insult, but because they feel they are hiding under somewhere, they cannot be caught. And there's something must be done about that.
Yes, and let me give you this instant because you mentioned Ora. Last week, I was there when my uncle called me that somebody claims he's from the National Security. He's gone to his property that they've acquired since the 70s in Agbegloshi, that he's been sent by Ora to come and lock the place. I can give you his name here.
I'll be happy to have his name.
That he's been sent by Ora to come and lock the place. So my uncle called me and said, there's a man there with some people that Oral. I said, but Oral has concluded their report and have submitted it to the presidency. And so how can a big compound? So I called the person, he didn't pick, and I sent him a text. And I said that this is what you do that embarrass Ghanaians.
Okay.
And so there are people out there who take some of these things.
For purpose, because of what he said, I'm speaking for government. Let me issue a clear disclaimer. Oral was a committee tasked with a specific assignment. They have concluded. Even when they were operating, there was no other outlet or branch that permitted anybody to go and lock up anybody's residence or take over anybody's property. We are aware that there are some individuals going around. Indeed, in the last week or so, we've heard reports where they're going to paste notices claiming that the office of the president says people should vacate their bank. I am saying it here as a matter of record that government has done no such thing.
I've seen those.
The office of the president has done no such. So please report anybody who shows up making such claims.
You see, and
Right.
there's a
Let me bring in Kwame Sapong Esiedu. Thank you, Kwame, for joining us. And Kwame is joining us for particularly the last subject, but we feel that we should pick his brain on this thing about, people being gone after for one thing or the other. Yes, so Kwame, state of the nation, and part of the state of the nation is that wrongdoing has to be punished.
Well, that is good morning, Samson. Good morning to everyone in the studio listening. I mean, the fact that wrongdoing has to be punished is not in question. I mean, we are becoming a lawless society. If people can just do wrong and get away with it. So for me, these things have to be investigated. And I agree entirely with everyone in the studio who says that if someone makes misguided statements, they shouldn't just get away with it. Where I disagree is, they can apologize and that should be the end of the story. No, they shouldn't apologize. And when we come to what I'm here to discuss, I have those same views. We have got to the point where people think eating humble pie as well is a form of restitution when you damage people's lives. It is not. It is not. There are laws in this country and we should learn to obey these laws. So if things have been done, and that's why I'm happy, this person is a person of interest. When they become a suspect, we should be brave enough to also call them suspects, because that is a term that is allowed under the law. And when they become convicts, we shouldn't say, they were convicted for political reasons. We should call them convicts. We need to get to the point where we need to dissociate what we do as partisans from crime that people commit in the name of political parties. And stop supporting them simply because we think they align with our political color. And when they've committed a crime, and we agree that they've committed a crime and have been rightly convicted, then what it means is that our political party is criminal. It doesn't mean that.
You realize that Dr. Amwa has been very careful not to, blanketly go to anybody's defense because the people belong to, his party. But that's the general approach you find around. People who may not have even known the people who have been invited, who do not know where they live, do not know their worth, are all about the place defending and saying this is political witch hunt.
Yes, and that's what I find very, very strange, especially on social media. You see people who have no idea what happened, who probably haven't read the initial allegations that are being made, are not aware of the extent of the investigation that state security agencies have engaged in, just coming out and defending and saying it's witch hunt, it's this, it's that, it's that. And if you look at something like the Sky Train, for example, without apportioning culpability to anybody, are we honestly saying that as a country we can afford to lose $2 million United States dollars for no work done, simply because the people who took the decision belong to a political party? I think that's preposterous. We need to get to the point where we call people out and say, this is wrong. Do a lot of the people on social media who are defending and saying it's political witch hunt, blah, 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 haven't even seen $10,000 before. They have no clue what $2 million can do for this country. Yet they are defending. And you see, when I see that, I get very, very upset, because it's like, okay, if you come into government, you can get your political goons to gang up when you've committed an error and you've caused financial loss to the state. And in the final analysis, you should be let off because we don't want to upset parties. I think that's ridiculous.
Okay. All right, so we take a break here. When we return, we're going to talk about the opioids, a very dangerous thing that is happening. And when you watch the BBC Africa Eye documentary, I don't know how, if you have seen it, how you process it, watching it. And they take the cameras on these people who are hooked onto the drugs, and they are just destroying their lives. And they take us to the manufacturer of the drug, and he's admitting how they are making this cocktail and how it's literally admitting that they are killing people. They know that they are killing people, and they are bringing it into the country even though it is not approved, it is banned. Stephen, a minute, because you have insisted you wanted to say something.
Samson, quick one. With respect to the 2 million Sky Train, in fact, I have a memorandum of agreement between the parties, the South Africans, and then the government state agency, as far as 2018. I'm not saying they are wrong or right, but because when my brother Felix was talking, the impression I had was nothing had been put even in place in terms of, but as far as 2018, they had gotten this thing signed in terms of agreement and other things, and it's about 7 years now. So I don't think, because as when my brother who just spoke, he said 2 million, what could be done, which is a fact. But if you don't take care, you suggest that something had been done with the 2 million in terms of squandering state fund or something. But I think we all need also to be very careful to wait and hear from the other side, or allow due processes to be followed so that we can get to the logical conclusions of some of these issues.
You are saying the contract is evidence of something that has been done for $2 million US dollars?
I'm saying that I had impression that nothing had been done. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So once there is this agreement,
I'm sure if something had been done, we would have seen it by now, right?
In fact, it is the MOU is actually the basis upon the investigation. If you're going to sign an agreement, what has been done to warrant?
I've seen that document.
Yes.
I've seen that document.
So, let me also explain this to you, because I've been doing investment consultancy for some time, at least from 2009 that his party sacked me. I wasn't an appointee. You know, when it comes to some of these agreements, there are faces. Some of them might not have been tangibles, things you can feel and touch. That's why I'm saying that we need to understand these. I'm not really saying that if not anything.
Okay.
Bad. So there could be consultation stage, there could be other engagement that might even be intangible, but it has some cost component. So let us wait and make sure that we get to the point that our comment will not. And the last thing I want to add is this thing about people saying bad things about other people. This media commission or whatever, they
National
came,
Media Commission.
Exactly, they came. I was shocked to have heard them on one of multimedia's platform that I want to be ethical, not that I'm being controlled by cowardice. That at least a gentleman that has been all over, or some of them all over, destroying reputations of families, home, insulting, attacking people, they wrote to his institution. Anyway, it's not multimedia. And that almost 9 times. Even the board members there, the management, were saying that they had not seen anything wrong with what the guy was doing.
You're talking about Captain Smart.
No, I don't want to. I want to be ethical. But he's not the only person. A lot of people do these things in Ghana. Within the media fraternity.
Within the local language broadcast.
I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Terrible.
So
there has to be a proper
as a
cleaner.
country,
It could be
as a country.
No, but we know that fact. Having an editor. I have edited the local language. Some. That's what I'm saying. I said within. I didn't say all of them.
Normally, it's predominant within the.
It doesn't mean all within that. That's correct.
So let's all begin,
including those cowards who are hiding under, what do you call it, internet, and committing criminal stuff in the name of doing broadcasts. Insult fest every day. That's what they do, and they're churning out a lot of falsehood. And we can't seem to hold them to account. This country can do better than that. We take a break. When we return...
No, Justice Chebafo has a bench warrant against...
There's a bench warrant. That's against Kevin Taylor. And I think the NDC will do a disservice to this country if, in fact, that guy steps his foot into this country and he's allowed to go without execution of the bench warrant on him. Okay? He's defamed a lot of people. They've gone to court. They've gotten judgment. Asa Nkoma, Gabia Sarachiridako, all of them have gotten judgments. But because he thinks he's out of the country, he can get away with it. It shouldn't be right. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And Daniel W.Y. Asari says, you see, Dr. Amoah's attempt at rationalizing clear signs of fraud by seeking to hide behind legal provisions is just Annoying. How many of them could have made same money in private businesses? K. Amwa says, it is like Dr. Amwa never answers questions on the program. How is it that as a Deputy Minister for Finance, explaining why the 2 million was paid for the SkyTrain project is a problem? Gasma 1 says the fight against corruption can't be won without the posturing of the judiciary. I don't get that. Remember their stance when the Fourth Estate had sought to go public on the NS scandal, then the Cecilia Dapa issue. I'm sorry, but they are enablers. So your understanding may be different, but that you cannot say that the judiciary, that's what they do. Felix Apia Fabian says Phillips Kwachio Fosu is solid. Unfortunately, the former director of communications at the presidency, Eugene Ahin, failed to do likewise under the Eswell administration. Okay, so those are some of your views there. Thanks for them. Yakubu Ibn Chambers says that Yakubu, that's too long. I can't read. I'd rather not attempt to read at all. So if you're sending a message you want me to read, keep it as crisp as you can. Okay, so I'm seeing some of your messages too long. I can't read the letters. I'm sorry about that. This program is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial star 165 hash on MTN to join My Way today. DBS Industries, Roofing, Papa Fie, Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Syntex Tanks. It's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients, our passion. Now, let's listen to just a small bit of the BBC documentary, and then we'll come back to the studio and have a certain discussion. Thank you very much. Let's hear this.
I'd been told that opioids were being smuggled across the border into Nigeria from Ghana. So I made contact with journalist Yaya Masuhudu. He's based in Tamale in northern Ghana, a city that's been hit hard by a recent rise in opioid use.
I was born and bred in Tamale. I've spent almost all my life in Tamale. These drugs are destroying families, destroying young men and women with potential who otherwise would have been able to help in developing this country. The local chief is so concerned that he's given the go-ahead for a citizens' task force. Its aim is to find opioids on the streets and track down the dealers.
I'm Zike, and this is Chairman Jamal, Operation Leader.
Zike is a local radio presenter and a leader of the task force.
It's made up of. Our intelligence doesn't come in a one particular mode. Sometimes based on tip-off, sometimes based on the inhabitants of that particular village, sometimes a parent of the addicted children. They will give us.
Hi, it's Ravi.
Hi, Yaya. Good to see you.
Did you get the photo?
Don't call me Mr. Jamal. You are proving me what?
The man in yellow is just a small-time local dealer. But who is at the top of this chain? Who is making these tablets and shipping them by the millions into Africa? This is what the task force seized. This packet is all we've got to go on, but it does offer a few clues.
Hi, it's Ravi.
Hi, Yaya. Good to see you.
Did you get the photos I sent you from the raid the task force did the other day?
Yeah, I have them pulled up on my computer now.
The product is called Tafrodol. The Ghanaian FDA have confirmed to me the product is illegal in Ghana. It's made of two substances. One is called tapentadol.
Thank you very much. So it's a long one, but we are unable to show you as much as we want to, suspect that most of you would have followed this in the course of the week and the FDA's reaction, and the Ghanaian company that's also pharmaceutical company that's been named and connected somewhat to importations that may include that. They too have issued a statement clearly stating that they are not involved whatsoever, and it appears there's somebody impersonating that company's name to do some wrong. Dr. Angela Dwamnabwaje also joins us of the ARC Foundation, but let's do it this way because we have run out of time. Let's go to Dr. Kwame Sapong-Asiedu. Kwame, in the next 5 minutes, help us. I know that's too little time, but help us understand what we are dealing with and why the authorities are unable to ensure that this doesn't come in.
Well, thanks, Samson. It's a very short time, but I'll try and do my best. The point is this. Let's set the premise straight. The combination of tapentadol and carisoprodol is lethal. In fact, tapentadol is what we call a Schedule 2 control drug. It's a Class A drug, but in a very high classification, with the likes of morphine, diamorphine, oxycodone, and stuff like that. So even in most countries, it's under a locked cabinet, even in pharmacies, where it has to be. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's highly addictive. So even for pain, it's hardly prescribed because there are less addictive substances than tapentadol. In fact, in my entire practice as a pharmacist of 25 years now, as a drug analyst of almost 20 years, and an environmental scientist of almost another 50 years, I have only seen one patient on tapentadol. I am quite sure a lot of pharmacists who are listening to me, my colleagues, have not dispensed tapentadol in their practice just because of how addictive it is. The next thing is that the carisoprodol is a muscle relaxant that actually makes the actions of tapentadol worse. The final thing I want to say is that the combination of both products are not registered anywhere in the world. And therefore, they shouldn't be able to even move under the regulations of movements of drugs in international commerce, because the law is clear that you can only export a drug from one country to the other when it is registered in the country of origin for the condition that is going to be used in the country of receipt. So the only conclusion I come to is that anyone who produces this combination is out to harm and kill people. That's the fundamental conclusion. Now let's look at it this way. If you look at the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime statistics and their reports, you would realize that these drugs have also been implicated considerably in jihadist activity. And therefore, that also brings a security concern. The other thing is, if you speak to those who are on the field in Galamsey in Ghana, oft when they go on raids, they find this combination either used, the rappers, or on the miners. That is very dangerous for our national security, because what it means is that should we be able to even win the Galamsey war, two things are going to happen. The people would not have the money to fund their illicit activity, that's taking this Tafrodol product. And number two, the country doesn't have the rehabilitation facilities to deal with the level of addiction that it brings. Now you ask the other question of how is it getting into the country? That's rather interesting, but I'll help you understand. You know, if you watch the documentary, you'd realize that Avio are clear that they cannot get the product into ports in Nigeria, but it's easy to get it into Ghana.
Yeah.
They are also clear by showing consignment notes that the products left the ports in India. They show the consignment notes with payments made. So there's clarity that the products left the port in India, which means the products landed in Ghana through legal routes, not through porous borders. So anytime I see that it's written that it's because of our porous borders in this instance, I beg to differ. And I'll tell you the other link.
Actually, the FDA said that in December, authorities intercepted a container en route to Nigeria, discovering substantial quantities of unapproved drugs, including 181 cartons of Royal 225 milligrams tapentadol and carisoprodol. Please, I can't even mention their names. And 90 cartons of tafradol, 120 milligrams. These illicit products were seized and destroyed following a court order in January of 2025. The FDA says that it has also taken action against local entities involved in the Avio Pharmaceuticals. Samo Pharma, a registered importer, has been directed to cease collaboration with Avio Pharmaceuticals and its exporter, Westfin International Private Limited. Then they talk about additional measures that they are taking.
Yes, and so Samson, that was where I was going to. That the products were seized by the FDA means that the products got through our ports. It was NACOC, Narcotics Control Commission, who had intel that led to the seizure. So that is complete confirmation that the thing is coming through our port, and that is scary. Do you know why that is scary, Samson? It is scary because customs are custodians of our ports, whether it's Tema, whether it's Kotoka, or whether it's Takra. When a medicine comes in, a medicine strictly is a red channeled product. So the FDA have to be informed and NACOC have to be informed. That those containers got out of our ports without the know of NACOC of FDA means that there is some level of complicity from the customs because the drug didn't go through the right channel. That tells me that there isn't enough collaboration between the agencies that are supposed to secure our drug supply chain. Because for starters, the product went through the wrong route. And that shouldn't happen to a medicine. That tells me that there's a serious leak at our ports of entry when it comes to medicines entry. So there are serious questions to be answered between the customs and why they are not bringing these standard regulatory agencies, as in the FDA and NACOC, to supervise the clearance of these things and why they're going through the wrong route.
What went through your mind as you listened to the manufacturer speaking to the BBC guys who were pretending, at the time to be people who were interested in importing them?
Well, what went through my mind is this is a criminal. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And the other thing that went through my mind was that they have criminal accomplices in West Africa and in Ghana in particular. Because Samson, don't get me wrong, the quantity of drug that is coming in, like the containers that were in transit, cannot be imported by the peddlers that you find on the streets.
That's right.
Internally. They cannot be imported by the people you find on the Galamsey side. They are people who are bringing these products in. And they are bringing it in for one reason only, to compromise our security.
From what you know, how widespread is the the use of these drugs by sections of the youth in this country?
Samson, that's why when this happened, if you ask your production, I refused to speak on this for a long time. It took them up to Wednesday to get me to speak. The reason was that we've been talking about this for 10 years, and it's very widespread. In 2019, for example, when Bevlolate was then the African coordinator for counterterrorism, I had over a 2-hour conversation with him on these products. If you look, the FDA has intercepted some of these products in over-the-counter shops and on drug peddlers as far back as 2022, 2023. So these products have been on our market for a very long time.
All right.
And let me conclude this way, Samson, because it's important. What worries me, even though I think customs have a huge question to answer, is that when the FDA finds these products in over-the-counter shops, they are issuing administrative fines. I totally disagree with that.
Okay.
Because for people who have these products, they should be leading us to the source of the product, and they should be criminally prosecuted. So whether it's the Pharmacy Council or the FDA, when they are found, they need to be dealt with. So the use is widespread, and we are handling the problem badly. That's how I want to do.
All right. Dr. Angela Jomnabwaje, apologies because of how things have panned out. Now, let's get to know what sense you make of what is happening and what ought to be done from where you sit.
It's positively frightening. I mean, when I saw the report and I heard what the man said, I said, this is a murderer on the loose. And we shouldn't take it lightly at all. If these drugs have been on our markets for years, then it's because somebody is not doing their work. And, you know, our problem has been, for me, a lot of the fallouts that come because we are not able to coordinate our work properly. Okay, and it has been made clear by the speaker before me. We already have a drug problem on our hand. In a study of about 50,000 people, 35,000 of them were found to be young people at age 10 to 12, involved in these drugs. And then you also have to understand that when it's coming to the youth, and we have a very tight national youth policy, you've got to read it, Samson. We have our constitutional provisions about protection of children in Article 28. We have our Children's Act that talks about the state's responsibility towards protection of children and youth. What do we do with these things? We need to understand that the youth are the ones that are falling through the cracks, and we must take this as seriously as Galamsey. In fact, I'm thinking that if you take Galamsey as the number one problem, this should be the number two, because of the impact of the drugs, and secondly, because of the connections to the other illegalities, cyber crimes, money laundering, human trafficking, and all other kinds of illegal substances that are coming alongside this particular trade. And so it isn't something that we need to take lightly at all. I'm thinking that the needs... Yes, sir. I couldn't hear you, Samson. Right. I'm thinking that there needs to be some kind of immediate interministerial... You know, I get weary of committees, but sometimes they are necessary. Not just a committee, a working task force that will bring the different agencies together and have a level of response that takes it from the national to the local, because already there is local community organizing, but I think it needs to be guided so that, you know, it doesn't get out of hand. Secondly, the children involved. After we have done the law enforcement bit, how are we following up the children? At the local levels, there needs to be coordination with civil society, the churches. This is mission. I mean, I'm thinking about the impacts. I've studied a bit of mental health in my academic work. So the impacts are so frightening, and the fact that our rehabilitation capacity would not be able to meet this kind of a drug-related issue. That is, for me, the most frightening. So we need to also connect with maybe other countries that are able to show the best practices. When we get the victims, I call them victims of criminals. We get the victims, we need to be able to know how are we going to get the drugs out of them. Don't let us forget also that the young people involved in this, a lot of them are doing it because they are already suffering some mental health issues, anxiety, depression. They're using these drugs, as it were, to dull their pain. Some of them do it because of the hard work. Those who push the trucks, they take tramadol and they are to dull the pain they are going through because of their economic circumstances. Then there's the experimentation factor and all of that. We know that. How do we deal with them as victims, not as criminals, and find the best possible ways of getting them back into the net for help? For me, that is the most important. I'm telling the government with the gender ministry, the youth ministry, and the other agencies to immediately put something together, as the president has done with other committees and so on, and start tackling this with the ferocity that it deserves, because it is positively frightening. It is.
Angela couldn't have said it any better, right? This is a crisis. And people who get onto these things, they have no fellow feeling, they have no nothing. Absolutely. When they are involved in armed activities, in your community, when they are involved in sexual, predatory activities, they have no feelings whatsoever.
It is true. I mean,
that's a danger to our society.
It is a matter that requires the highest levels of governmental attention. And the president alluded to it in his State of the Nation address, that he is following closely how the appropriate authorities handle this matter. And that where...
Angela said he should just not follow.
But what I mean is that it is agencies and the government that will look into the matter. We must allow them to do their work. I believe they have capacity to do that work. As and when the work concludes and there's reason for government to take further action, trust that President Mahama will do so. Indeed, he alluded to it in the State of the Nation address, and it shows the level of urgency that he attaches to the matter. It is worrying, and all of us, I guess, have a role to play in ensuring that we defeat this canker. I mean, the urge to make illicit money has become so strong that people are willing to do anything, go to any lengths in order to make money.
We have seen armed robbery activity in broad day light.
And you cannot engage in that activity if you are clear-minded. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible to pull a gun and gun down another human being and strip him of his assets if you are clear-minded. Something clearly has to inform that level of bravado and carelessness and wanton disregard for human life. So I am all for any form of investigation that exposes this matter. But more importantly, governmental action will be taken.
It should be treated as a crisis, an emergency.
Absolutely. And I agree with Angela when she says that it should be at par with the Galamsey matter in terms of its importance.
Yes, Bobby. The Samo farmer that was, being implicated, they issued a statement and they said, I'm quoting one portion, they said, we have never imported or traded in tapentadol or carousoprodol, either individually or in combination. We have always striven to be compliant with all industry standards and operated strictly within the Ghana Food and Drugs Authority and Pharmacy Council and all other relevant stakeholder regulations and guidelines. We have, on the basis of these false claims, taking the following action. They have engaged legal counsel to get the BBC to cease and desist. They have filed a formal complaint with the FDA, and they have prepared legal action against the BBC for defamation, among other things. Yes.
Samson, I'm looking at the other side. The victims, as Dr. Angela referred to. I think there could be a cause of action on their behalf, public interest litigation.
Okay.
This company that is saying it is not them. Because my little knowledge of the customs, because these, they said they were not brought through porous borders, they were imported. And so any RTI request will let us have the names that appear on the bills of lading.
Correct.
There's no payment that is done at the port that is cash. So the bank account from where the payment was made to the customs officers, we could trace these sources. We can follow the money and know who the beneficiaries are. Any public interest court action would get Ghana government some money, at least to build the centers, the rehabilitation centers. Because in America, there are instances where manufacturers of these drugs that have such harmful effects have been sued to the point of bankruptcy. The monies that have been made are distributed to the families that the children or whatever have suffered from these things. And some have been put to public use. So I think that you can come together with a team to explore legal avenues of suing whoever is behind it, whether it is this company that is...
Thank you very much for that. My outfit is by Konati Clothing. You can call them 0244 676732. 0244 676732. Steve, in some 30 seconds.
Okay. It's unfortunate I didn't get time, but I think everybody that has spoken this morning, to me, I agree. But then it's only looking at the systemic, the bigger picture. I think we should also descend to the community levels. who are the major stakeholders? Parents, teachers. Now we are losing our sense of community.
Internally, the chiefs that have put a team together who are arrested.
So, and even education. Now parents leave the house, leaving the kids sleeping. By the time they come home, the kids have left after school, and they sleep even before their kids.
Right.
So I think these activities must be revisited in our localities, where other parents can even parent other kids. And also, we should also encourage more local production. Because importation of drugs are leading to some of these things. And also upscale their performances, the stakeholder institutions such as FDA, Standard Authority and all that. And I think as a state, all of us must begin to
Thank you very much.
The advocacy.
My guests have been Felix Kwachio Fosu, Minister of State Government Communications, Dr. Stephen Amoah, former Deputy Minister for Finance and MP in Shaiso, Bobby Bansing is a lawyer and a teacher of the law at the Ghana School of Law. Dr. Angela Jamnabwaje is Executive Director at the ARC Foundation, and Dr. Kwame Sapong-Asiedu is CDD Fellow in Public Health. Join me tomorrow, 2 p.m., as we continue with part 2 of the subject that I have been treating with the judges on reforming the judiciary system. And my guests will continue to be Her Ladyship Justice Ifiasawa Sariboche and Lydia Osei Mafo, all of the Court of Appeal. Have a good afternoon.